We have seen a surge in the popularity of women's sports. Are we finally at parity in the bigger game, the gender battle? Well, let's look at the score. I'm Larry Fedoruk, and this is Later That Same Life. On each weekly podcast, a different topic, discussion, or story from our lives.
Season 12, Chapter 10.
Women's sports.
In the 42 years since the NCAA March Madness tournament also included a women's bracket, 2024 was the first time more people watched the women's final game than the men's. ABC and ESPN claimed almost 19 million viewers watched the women's final mid-afternoon on a Sunday. The men's final, the next night, in primetime, drew 4 million fewer. The women's game viewership was up 89% from the previous year. More people watched that final game this year than watched the last World Series or the last NBA final. At its peak, it outnumbered viewership for the World Cup. The Saturday before the final in Cleveland, over 19,000 people showed up at the stadium just to watch practice. Meanwhile, in the newly formed PWHL, Professional Women's Hockey League, opening games in the original six, Montreal, Ottawa, Toronto, Boston, New York, and Minnesota, quickly sold out. Future games were moved from the area's secondary and minor league arenas to the big pro rinks to accommodate demand. They also sold out. Crowds on a par with NHL games, and the PWHL got ratings and major sponsors. The hockey and basketball success stories built on the increasing attention people were giving to women's soccer. Soccer is the number one team sport in the world, the biggest. In Canada and the U.S., it has struggled, comparatively speaking. However, in the last about 20 years, it has really come into its own on this continent. And that is thanks largely to the women's teams. The U.S. winning back-to-back FIFA Women's World Cups in 1999 and 2003. Canada's women winning in 2015. In team sports, fans often like to focus on one or two elite players. Yeah, we support the team, but we need our superstars. Christine Sinclair in Canada. Mia Hamm, Megan Rapinoe, and Hope Solo for the U.S., among others. It helps to have a superstar. We like to have heroes. In women's basketball right now, that person is Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark, the star of the Iowa State Hawkeyes, finishing her senior year with a great game, but also a loss in the finals to South Carolina. Caitlin Clark, already the star of many national TV commercials. Endorsement deals are lining up outside her door. Number one pick in the WNBA draft.
When I think about women's basketball going forward, obviously it's just going to continue to grow, whether it's at the WNBA level, whether it's at the college level. Like, everybody sees it, everybody knows. It just continues to get better and better and better.
Only weeks before season's end, Clark made news when she broke a 50-plus year record of most career NCAA points, man or woman, a record previously held by Pistol Pete Maravich. She broke the NCAA record for three-pointers in a season. That was held by Steph Curry. This was someone to watch. Many people made the point that Angel Reese was also someone to watch. She is also an NCAA record-breaking star with Louisiana State University. She and Caitlin Clark seemed directly competitive with each other, right down to trash talk and gestures. Yet Caitlin Clark was the headline, the name on everyone's lips. Why? Because Caitlin Clark is white and Angel Reese black? I don't know. Some wondered, though. It is America, after all. Divisions within sports along racial lines, well, that's a topic for another time. This is about divisions in sports along gender. Women's sports and its tremendous recent successes. I don't know that there's one thing or one day or one event that suddenly changed the trajectory of women's sport. As with most, it's a number of things, one after the other. Over the years, many have argued that women's sports didn't have the following it should because the sports media did not cover it enough. Sports media, on the other hand, might say that it didn't cover it because it didn't have the following. Looks like it was 0-0 in the chicken versus egg game. So how did women's sports finally break through? I've put together a few things. Here's a series of random thoughts. I give credit first to the NBA. In 1996, they approved the formation and support of the WNBA, Women's National Basketball Association, a pro league. Granted, this was over 100 years after the game of basketball was invented, almost a century since the suffragette initiative, 40-some years after the emergence of the women's liberation movement. So, I don't want to give the NBA too much credit. They were pretty late to the movement, but at least they were among the first trying to catch up. The college basketball tournament we now know as March Madness started in 1939. Women's teams weren't added until, as I said, 1982. So by 1996, the successful college female players had somewhere to go after college. That is to say, if they wanted to continue to play the sport they loved. It was the WNBA. At this year's NBA All-Star Game, the three-point shootout was a matchup between Steph Curry and the WNBA's Sabrina Ionescu of the New York Liberty. Curry won, just barely, but it was a cool showcase. Kudos to the NBA. Incidentally, the NHL does not financially, corporately, or in any real way support women's professional hockey. Hey, how about a bucket of old pucks? Sorry, can't spare it. So some credit to the NBA. The WNBA did struggle, poor attendance, little or no coverage, but they persevered. The Houston Comets, a four-peat, Los Angeles Sparks, Detroit Shock, Seattle Storm, and perhaps now a new dynasty, the Las Vegas Aces. Recently, a Toronto billionaire says he is looking to bring a WNBA franchise to the Ontario capital. WNBA's first Canadian team. That would be cool. Brittany Griner kept the league in the spotlight in a way no one would have wanted, but the unfortunate story of Brittany Griner did bring many issues to the fore. Brittany Griner, even though a star with the WNBA's Phoenix Mercury, needed a job in the off-season to help supplement her income. She chose to get paid to play basketball in Russia. February 17, 2022, Griner was detained by Russian authorities, arrested and accused of carrying vape cartridges containing hashish. It took months for Griner to be released. She rejoined her team and the league, and now for reasons not related to her game skills, continues to be a big name in the WNBA. In 2022, the U.S. Soccer Federation announced they had reached a deal that would see the men's national team and the women's national team be paid equally. FIFA announced it would increase substantially the pay for women players and teams in the World Cup, although they are still quite far behind the men. During last year's Women's World Cup of Soccer, a video went viral. Remember, it was the French men's soccer team. It was a highlight reel of sorts. It showed incredible skills, kicks, passes, goals. Except halfway through the video, the director showed us that we had been watching the skills of the French women's team, with the upper half being purposely digitally altered to show men. In other words, the amazing video you were watching was the way women play. This has been part of this surge. Basketball, hockey, soccer. Some male revelation. Wow, they can play. Spain won the World Cup last year. Spain's soccer head was on stage to congratulate the women. Luis Rubiales was accused of forcibly kissing a female player on the lips. A kiss, she said, was unwanted. He was suspended, charged with assault. What I'm saying is, we were not only enamored, of the athletic performance of women, we were once again made aware of the disgusting behavior of men. I would be remiss in not mentioning that Canada's ruling soccer body is in a financial mess. Years ago, they basically sold off their earning rights and potential to a third party. Imagine having an agent that overcharges you and makes more money than you for the work that you do. That's our situation in Canada, and they're still trying to get out of that sorry-ass deal. And let's not forget Hockey Canada and the horrible way they handled sexual assaults by junior players. The outcry caused complete restructuring of the organization, including more women on the board and in positions of decision-making. And shortly thereafter, along comes a professional women's hockey league. No horribly behaving men, no fistfights, no overpaid little boys, just highly skillful women playing hockey. There it was, the game we loved, without all of that social baggage. The brief story of the current PWHL. It's one of dedicated people stepping up to provide a professional league that women could play in. Previous, there had been many attempts. There had been a Canadian Women's Hockey League, a Women's Professional Hockey Players Association, which then became a Premier League. They eventually collapsed. But Billie Jean King Enterprises lobbied the Mark Walter Group, Walter, the owner of the Los Angeles Dodgers, to acquire the rights of the Premier League and build a new league from the ground up.
It's the backing from Mark and Kimbra, the money, that really makes the difference. Without that, it doesn't matter how many dreams you have. But now it's going to be a reality starting today.
And this was brilliant. They began with a collective bargaining agreement. All your ducks in order, so to speak. I's dotted, T's crossed, all the cliches. Business before ever even firing up a Zamboni. Players in the new league could make a living just playing hockey. They had to have full-time, anytime access to proper training facilities, equipment, travel, et al., at a professional level. After all that, there was no shortage of willing participants. In other words, lots of women wanted to play hockey in this league. It was a real if you build it, they will come story. And I'll bet you Haley Wickenheiser wished that all this happened about 10 years sooner. Either way, it's game on, great success. And thanks to Billie Jean King and Mark Walter, the league recently unveiled their championship trophy. It will be called the Walter Cup. So women's sports has seemingly suddenly hit new heights, and hopefully they will never look back. But is it about parity with men's sports? Should that be the goal? Decades ago, sociologist Samuel Schufer came up with a concept that we still rely on today. It's called relative deprivation. It is not absolute deprivation, but relative deprivation that causes revolt, as in a demand for change. Relative deprivation means a person feels deprived of or entitled to something based on what someone else has. It's not necessarily a bad thing. But we've had decades of female athletes doing the same jobs as the men for much less pay. So partly it's this relative deprivation that has brought about some change, finally. The struggle in women's sports is really the struggle of women in society. Centuries-old random rules that define the roles of women in society. Wives, mothers, and homemakers mostly. Certainly women didn't get involved in sports, at least to any great extent. And they certainly weren't expected to enjoy sports. I will be at the sports game, Dolores. Please have supper ready whenever I decide to come home. Does anyone remember Babe Dietrichson Zaharias? Did anyone even learn about her in school? She was an athletic superstar in the 1930s and 40s, in basketball, track and field, and eventually golf. She would be an anomaly in her day. The movie A League of Their Own was based on a true story. But when the men came back from war, spoiler alert, the league folded. Who wanted to see women play sports? It really wasn't until the 1970s, a good decade into the general women's movement, that we began to see female athletes as stars, as household names. A lot of them came from tennis. Chris Everett, Margaret Court, of course, Billie Jean King. In 1973, it was Billie Jean King who played Bobby Riggs, a slightly older retired male player. It was billed as the Battle of the Sexes. King winning in straight sets, Riggs whispering in her ear afterward, "I underestimated you." Still, it was a bit of a novelty event. Perhaps it didn't do much to change people's attitudes about female athletes. Female athletes were often more popular if they were also sexy. Ooh, Steffi Graf is in Playboy this month. Ooh, gotta check that out. But we know now that a battle of the sexes meant a lot more to Billie Jean King. She continued as an advocate for female athletes. And then there she was, waving to fans at the opening games of the Women's Professional Hockey League, a league she helped found. For the latter third of the 20th century, the male-dominated wide world of sports slowly accepted that women could be pretty good at sports. They could run almost as fast, jump almost as high, swim nearly as quickly. I guess we can do curling together. After all, you're a woman, you should know how to sweep. Some of those women could even golf pretty good. Although, golf, from a league perspective, they still have some gender issues. You know, like men can shoot from here, but the women, you can start from way over there. Much closer, because you're women. And also the female PGA counterpart is the LPGA. So if you want to golf professionally, you can't just be a woman, you also have to be a lady. All of those little games were okay. However, the macho sports, especially the team ones, those still belonged to the male of the species. Okay, there was Manon Rhéaume, remember? She was a pretty good goaltender. She could certainly be a goaltender for a men's hockey team. But seriously, I don't know. Come on. Chicks, sports. Okay, women, you know what? You can have a football league, but you have to play in lingerie. Remember the lingerie football league? That was this century. Doug Ford's daughter played in it. Not the one who bakes cookies. It was another one. Women's sports. I guess we're glad to see it changing. It took a long time, but women's sports has really come a long way. Actually, I hate when men say that to women or about women. You've come a long way. In other words, that's how far back we've been trying to keep you. Yeah, I've come a long way because I had a long way to go. So maybe it's just a matter of all of the efforts over all of the years are starting to pay off. A confluence of currents and events, decades in the making, and we see the rise of women's basketball, soccer, hockey, and we have the heroes within those activities that young girls can emulate. Young girls no longer have to sign up for just dance or guides. And those are wonderful organizations. Sign up for those if you want. But they can also sign up for sports. And there's someone there for them to admire. And there's somewhere for them to go as they get older and may want to continue. Gotta see it to be it. Even in India, not necessarily always the poster nation for gender equality, they formed a women's Premier League in cricket. Cricket, the second most popular sport in the world. And this was just last year. And it thrilled all sorts of young Indian women and girls who want to play. Some American pundits said we are finally starting to see the generational results of Title IX. Title IX is a U.S. statute enforced in educational and social institutions, and it bans discrimination based on gender. Yeah, perhaps it's part of the change. Sometimes society moves forward, aided by legislation, sometimes in spite of it. You know what a unique situation is to women's sports, though, especially in individual disciplines? the trans athletes. What do we do about the trans athletes? I say it's unique to women's sports because most women who transition to men don't really want to play for the Lakers, not even the tall ones. Millions of years of evolution have made, in general terms, men and women physiologically different. I'm not talking about how one may identify, but body parts and mass. By those markers, if you were born a male, but then you transition and you are good at a sport, should you be allowed to play with all the other females? This has many people vexed. Caster Semenya and Nikki Hiltz. These are female track stars, once men. Can you imagine if Bruce became Caitlin like 40 years ago and wanted to come back to the Olympics to compete again? The IOC committee heads would have exploded. They still might. I really don't know how sports figures this out. I mean, most people can't even decide which washrooms these people are supposed to be using. I have two possible solutions. Where applicable, athletic competitions are not divided up by gender and age, as they often are, but rather by height and weight classifications. Secondly, sports should probably catch up with the rest of society and admit that there are more than two genders and divide competitions up among more than just the two groups. Now, that'll never happen, but, just saying. Go women's sports, go. I mean, in general, I'm not even much of a sports guy. The whole idea seems like a lot of waste of time. But if we're going to do sports, I am thrilled to see that women are gaining, if not equal footing yet, at least similar footing to men. And let's not forget the role of the new media. Well, it's not new, but the newer media. It plays a big part in this surge. You no longer have to try and follow your favorite sport or team by wading through the traditional media. You just tell the new media what you like, and they will follow you.
Later That Same Life is written, voiced, and produced by Larry Fedoruk. LarryFedoruk37@gmail.com. Subscribe to Larry's podcast YouTube channel. Get automatic notifications with each new episode.